My hands were shaking. I stood at the pharmacy counter, staring at the little screen that read, "Declined," in bright red letters. Behind me, a line of people shifted impatiently. The pharmacist, a young woman with kind eyes, looked at me with that particular mix of pity and discomfort that made my stomach turn. "Ma'am, do you have another card you'd like to try?" I fumbled through my wallet, my debit card, my Visa, the emergency MasterCard I kept for situations exactly like this. I handed her the Visa with trembling fingers. "Declined." The MasterCard. "Declined." "I don't understand," I whispered. "There's money in these accounts. I just checked yesterday." The pharmacist leaned forward, lowering her voice. "Sometimes there are holds or freezes. You might want to call your bank." I grabbed my useless cards and walked out without my blood pressure medication, without my arthritis pills, without the eye drops I needed after my cataract surgery 3 weeks ago. My daughter had driven me to that surgery. My daughter had held my hand in the recovery room. My daughter had promised to take care of everything while I healed. My daughter. I sat in my car in the Walgreens parking lot in Sarasota, Florida, and I called my bank. After 20 minutes of hold music and security questions, a woman named Patricia told me something that made the world tilt sideways. "Mrs. Helen Crawford, it appears your daughter, Jessica Crawford Martinez, who is listed as a joint account holder, has transferred the funds to a separate account and placed a freeze on all cards associated with your name." "She can do that?" "As a joint account holder with full privileges, yes, ma'am. She has equal access to all funds and account management features." I hung up. I sat there for 15 minutes, watching people come and go from the pharmacy. Normal people picking up their normal prescriptions, going home to their normal families. I had been normal once. Before my husband died. Before I signed those papers in the hospital. Before I trusted my own daughter with everything I had. I drove to Jessica's house. I don't know why. I should have gone to a lawyer. I should have gone to the police. But she was my daughter. Surely there was an explanation. Surely this was some kind of mistake or misunderstanding. Their house was beautiful. A 4-bedroom Mediterranean-style home in a gated community. Paid for with the $200,000 I had loaned them 3 years ago. A loan they never mentioned repaying. A loan I never pushed them about because good mothers don't treat their children like debtors. That's what Jessica always said. My son-in-law's BMW is in the driveway next to Jessica's white Mercedes. I parked my 12-year-old Honda behind them and walked to the front door. I still had my key. Jessica had given it to me when they bought the house. The key didn't work. I rang the doorbell. Through the frosted glass, I could see movement. Shadows. I rang again. The door opened. My son-in-law Derek stood there in his golf clothes, a protein shake in his hand. He was 42 years old, worked at his father's real estate development company, and hadn't done a genuine day's labor in his entire life. But he always smiled at me. He always called me Mum. He always hugged me at holidays. He wasn't smiling now. "Helen, we weren't expecting you. I need to speak with Jessica. She's busy." "My cards aren't working, Derek. My bank says Jessica froze my accounts. I'm sure it's a misunderstanding, but I need my blood pressure medication, and It's not a misunderstanding." I heard footsteps behind him. Jessica appeared. My beautiful daughter. My only child. She was wearing yoga clothes, and her hair was pulled back in a sleek ponytail. She looked healthy, glowing, like someone who slept well at night. "Mom, you shouldn't have come here." "Jessica, what is going on? The bank says you moved all my money. My cards don't work. I can't even buy groceries." My daughter sighed. She actually sighed. Like I was being tedious. Like I was a difficult customer service call she had to endure. "We talked about this, Mom. Your spending has been out of control since the surgery, the donations to that church, the money you sent to your sister, the new furniture you were looking at." Derek and I decided it was time to step in. Step in? That's my money, Jessica. I earned it. I saved it. 40 years of nursing, double shifts, holidays, weekends. That's my retirement. "It's our inheritance," Derek said. He said it casually, like he was commenting on the weather. "And we're protecting it. For the kids." "Your inheritance? I'm not dead." Jessica held up her hand. "Mom, please don't be dramatic. We're doing this for your own good. You've been confused since the surgery. Forgetful. You called me asking about Dad last week. I asked if you had found his old watch in the boxes I gave you. I wasn't confused about him being alive. That's not how we remember it. We? I looked between them. You're both in on this? Derek put his arm around Jessica's shoulders. United front. I had seen this posture before, when they told me they were getting married despite my concerns, when they announced they were putting my grandchildren in boarding school instead of letting them stay with me during their business trips, when they explained why they couldn't come to Richard's funeral but would send flowers. Mom, here's what's going to happen, Jessica said. You're going to go home. You're going to rest. Every week, I'll transfer enough money for your basic expenses. Groceries, utilities, the essentials, nothing extravagant. And when you've shown that you can be responsible, we'll revisit the arrangement. You'll give me an allowance from my own money? See, that's the attitude we're talking about. That entitlement, that inability to see that we're helping you. Helping me? I can't even buy my medication. Derek laughed. Actually laughed. You can pick up your prescriptions, Helen. We're not monsters. Jessica will call the pharmacy and pay for them directly. That way we know exactly where the money is going. I felt something cold settle in my chest. And if I refuse? If I go to the bank and demand my money back? Jessica's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Something I had never seen before. Or maybe I had seen it and just refused to recognize it. Mom, you made me joint account holder and gave me power of attorney when you had your surgery. That was your choice. The bank will tell you the same thing they told us. Everything we're doing is perfectly legal. I gave you power of attorney for medical decisions in case something went wrong. Not to steal from me. It's not stealing. It's asset protection. And honestly, Mom, if you keep making accusations like that, we might need to discuss other options. What options? Derek answered, his voice light and cheerful. There are some really nice memory care facilities in the area. Very comfortable. Jessica and I toured a few when we were planning ahead. You know, just in case, the one in Venice is especially lovely. Ocean views. My daughter nodded. It would break my heart, Mum. But if you can't take care of yourself, if you're going to be hostile and paranoid, we have to consider what's best for everyone, including the children. They don't need to see their grandmother like this. I stared at her. This was my daughter. The baby I had nursed through colic and chickenpox. The teenager I had coached through heartbreak and college applications. The young woman I had watched walk down the aisle with tears of joy in my eyes. You would put me in a facility? Against my will? It wouldn't be against your will, Mum. We'd help you understand it was the right choice, just like we're helping you now. Derek took a sip of his protein shake. Think of it this way, Helen. You're 72 years old. You've had a good run. Built up a nice nest egg. Now it's time to pass the torch. Let the next generation take over. Relax. Enjoy your golden years. Without my own money. You'll have everything you need, Jessica said. We'll make sure of it. A little allowance for groceries. Your prescriptions covered. Maybe a small entertainment budget, if you behave. Behave. Don't make that face, Mom. This is hard for us too. Do you think I enjoy being the bad guy? But someone had to step up. Dad would have wanted me to protect the family assets. Something cracked inside me. Your father would be ashamed of you. The words came out before I could stop them. Jessica's face went white, then red. How dare you? Richard worked himself to death so we could have a comfortable retirement, so I could have security after he was gone. He would never, never have condoned stealing from me. We're not stealing, Jessica screamed it. Actually screamed. We're protecting you from yourself, you stupid old woman. Derek put a hand on her arm. Babe, the neighbors. Jessica took a breath. Composed herself. When she spoke again, her voice was ice. Here's the reality, Mum. You can cooperate, accept a reasonable allowance, and live comfortably in your own home. Or you can fight us, and we'll have you declared incompetent. I have power of attorney. I have medical access. The doctor who did your cataract surgery is a friend of Derek's father. One call, and we have documentation that you've been showing signs of cognitive decline. That's not true. Truth is whatever the paperwork says. And right now, the paperwork says, I have full control of your finances, your medical decisions, and your living situation. So you can work with us, Mum, or you can spend your remaining years in a facility wearing diapers and eating pudding, wondering why no one visits. Derek chuckled. Yeah, you'll be begging us for diaper money before long. Real role reversal, huh? You used to change her diapers now. Derek, Jessica cut him off. Mum needs to go home and think about her options. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and I saw a stranger. You've been planning this, I said slowly. This isn't about my surgery. This isn't about protecting me. You've been waiting for an opportunity. Don't be paranoid. The loan for this house, the joint account you convinced me to set up for emergencies. The power of attorney. You've been building up to this for years. Jessica shrugged. Smart financial planning. You should be proud you raised someone so prepared. I turned and walked back to my car. Behind me, I heard Derek call out, Drive safe, Helen. And hey, maybe don't mention this to anyone. Family business stays in the family, right? I drove home. I pulled into the driveway of the modest ranch house where Richard and I had raised Jessica, where we had celebrated birthdays and holidays, where I had nursed my husband through his final months of cancer, holding his hand as he slipped away, promising him I would be okay, promising him our daughter would take care of me. I sat in my car for a long time. The sun set. The streetlights came on. A neighbor walking their dog waved at me, confused about why I was just sitting there. Then I went inside and made 3 phone calls. The first was to my sister in Michigan. Carol, I need the name of the lawyer you used when Bill's children tried to contest his will. The second was to my neighbor, Martha, who had been a paralegal for 30 years before she retired. Martha, I need you to come over. Bring paper and a pen. I need to document everything while it's fresh. The third was to the Sarasota Police Department, non-emergency line. I'd like to report suspected elder financial abuse. The next morning, I woke up early. I put on my best dress. The navy blue one Richard always said brought out my eyes. I did my hair. I put on makeup for the first time in weeks. Then I drove to the main branch of my bank with a folder full of documents Martha had helped me organize. The branch manager was a man named Theodore, and when I explained my situation, his expression went from politely attentive to deeply concerned. Mrs. Crawford, I want to be clear about something. While your daughter is a joint account holder, there are still protections in place for situations like this, especially given your age and the circumstances you're describing. She told me everything was legal. Joint account access is legal, yes. But if the funds were moved through fraud, coercion, or exploitation, that's a different matter entirely. And the power of attorney you granted was medical, not financial. Let me pull up the documents we have on file. 15 minutes later, Theodore looked up from his computer with a grim expression. Mrs. Crawford, the power of attorney document your daughter submitted to us is different from what you're describing. This one grants her full financial control over all your assets. That's not what I signed. I understand. I'm going to flag this account immediately and begin a fraud investigation. In the meantime, I'm going to issue you a new debit card linked to a fresh account and transfer enough funds for your immediate needs. If your daughter attempts to access these new accounts, we'll know. Can you do that? She's a joint holder. Theodore smiled, and it was not a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had seen this before and knew exactly how the story ended. Mrs. Crawford, I've been in banking for 23 years. I've seen children do terrible things to their parents. We have procedures for this. Trust me. When I left the bank, I had a working debit card with $5,000 accessible. I had a reference number for the fraud investigation, and I had a printout showing that the financial power of attorney on file was dated 3 days after my cataract surgery, when I was still heavily medicated and barely coherent. My next stop was the law office of Patricia Huang, the attorney my sister had recommended. Patricia was in her 50s, sharp-eyed and no-nonsense, with diplomas on her wall from Georgetown and experience in elder law that spanned 2 decades. She reviewed my documents while I explained everything that had happened. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Mrs. Crawford, what your daughter and son-in-law are doing is textbook elder financial abuse. The forged power of attorney alone is a felony. Add in the coercion, the threats about memory care facilities, and the misappropriation of funds, and we're looking at multiple criminal charges. Criminal, but she's my daughter. That doesn't give her the right to steal from you. Florida takes elder abuse very seriously. The state attorney's office has a specialized unit for exactly these situations. I don't want her to go to prison." Patricia leaned forward. "I understand that. But I want you to think about something. If your daughter is willing to do this to you, what else might she do? What happens when you actually do need care? When you're actually vulnerable?" I thought about Derek's laugh, about Jessica's cold eyes, about the threat of diapers and facilities. "What do I do? First, we revoke all powers of attorney and establish new ones with someone you trust. Your sister, perhaps. Second, we remove Jessica from all your accounts and secure your assets. Third, we file for a protective order if necessary. Fourth, we report this to Adult Protective Services and law enforcement. And then we let the system work. If your daughter is smart, she'll return everything and accept whatever deal the prosecutors offer. If she's not smart, well," Patricia shrugged, "some lessons are expensive." The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. The police interviewed me, then Jessica, then Derek. Bank investigators subpoenaed records. Adult Protective Services sent a caseworker to my home, a kind woman named Rosa, who asked me gentle questions and documented everything. Jessica called me 17 times. I didn't answer. She sent emails, ranging from pleading to threatening. I forwarded them all to Patricia. Then she showed up at my door. I watched through the window as she got out of her Mercedes. She looked different, smaller, somehow, scared. Derek wasn't with her. I opened the door but kept the chain on. "Mum, please, we need to talk. My lawyer advised me not to speak with you." "Lawyer? Mum, we're family. We don't need lawyers between us. You changed that when you forged my signature and stole my life savings. It was a mistake. A misunderstanding. Derek. She stopped, started again. Derek had some debts I didn't know about. Business debts. His father cut him off, and he panicked. I was trying to help him. I was trying to save my marriage. By destroying my life, I would have given it back. I was always going to give it back. I just needed time. Jessica, you threatened to put me in a memory care facility. You called me a stupid old woman. Your husband laughed about me wearing diapers. Tears were running down her face now. I know. I'm so sorry. Please, Mom. There has to be a way to fix this. The police are saying I could go to prison. What about Emily and Jack? What happens to my kids if I go to prison? I thought about my grandchildren, 12 and 14, away at boarding school. I saw them maybe twice a year, always under Jessica's supervision. She had been systematically cutting them off from me for years. I realize now, making sure they didn't get too attached, making sure they wouldn't take my side when the time came. Where are Emily and Jack now? At school. Why? When all of this is over, I want to see them. Regularly. Without you present. Jessica's tears stopped. You're using my children as leverage? I'm asking to have a relationship with my grandchildren. Something you've been preventing for years. That's not... She stopped. Her mask slipped, just for a moment. And I saw the calculation behind her eyes. Fine, okay. If that's what it takes, you can see them, but you need to drop the charges. Tell the police it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding, Jessica. It was a crime. Mom, please. Go home. Talk to your lawyer. The next time we speak, it should be through official channels. I closed the door. Through the window, I watched my daughter stand on the porch for a long moment. Then she walked back to her car and drove away. 3 months later, Jessica pleaded guilty to financial exploitation of an elderly person. The judge, a stern woman named Harrison, took into account Jessica's lack of prior record, but emphasized the severity of betraying a parent's trust. Jessica received 3 years of probation, 200 hours of community service at an elder care facility, full restitution of all stolen funds, and a permanent restraining order preventing her from any financial involvement in my affairs. Derek, who had actually forged my signature on the power of attorney, received 18 months in federal prison for forgery and fraud. His father's company quietly terminated his position. Their beautiful house went up for sale to pay legal fees. The prosecutor offered me the chance to speak at the sentencing. I declined. There was nothing left to say. But Patricia was right. The system worked. Every penny was returned to me. My accounts were secured with new protections. My sister Carol flew down from Michigan, and we spent a week together. setting up proper safeguards for my future. A legitimate medical directive. A trust that no one could touch. Emergency contacts who would actually protect me. 6 months after the sentencing, I got a letter from my granddaughter Emily. It was short, just a few lines. She said she was sorry about what happened. She said she didn't understand everything, but she knew her mum had done something wrong. She asked if she could visit me over summer break. Her brother Jack added a postscript. "We miss you, Grandma. Mum says you're dangerous, but Dad used to say that about a lot of people who weren't." I called the boarding school that afternoon. The headmaster was hesitant until I explained the situation and gave her Patricia's contact information for verification. 2 days later, we worked out a visitation arrangement. Emily and Jack spent 3 weeks with me that summer. We baked cookies. We went to the beach. We looked at old photo albums, and I told them stories about their grandfather, about their mother as a little girl, about the family history Jessica had never shared with them. On their last night, Emily sat with me on the back porch, watching the fireflies. "Grandma, why did Mum do it?" I had thought about this question a lot. I still didn't have a good answer. "I think your mother got lost somewhere along the way. She started measuring love in dollars instead of time. She convinced herself that what was mine was already hers, and that taking it was just claiming what she deserved. Did she learn that from you? Maybe. I spoiled her when she was young. I gave her everything she wanted because I loved her. I didn't realize I was teaching her that wanting something meant she was entitled to it. So it's your fault." "No, we all make our own choices. I made mistakes as a mother, but your mom made her own decision to steal from me. That's on her, not me." Emily was quiet for a moment. "She says you're keeping her from seeing us. Is that what she says? She says you turned us against her." "Emily, I'm not keeping anyone from anything. Your mother has supervised visitation rights. She can see you whenever she follows the court's rules. She's choosing not to." "Why?" "Because she doesn't want supervision. She wants control. And she'd rather have nothing than accept limitations." Emily nodded slowly. "That sounds like her." I put my arm around my granddaughter. "I want you to know something. No matter what happens between your mother and me, I love you. I will always love you. And my door is always open. Always. Even if we turn out like her, you won't. I can already see that. You're asking questions she never thought to ask." That fall, I started volunteering at a local senior centre. Not because I needed companionship, though that was a nice benefit, but because I had learned something important and I wanted to share it. Every week, I led a workshop called Protecting Your Future. I talked about joint accounts and powers of attorney, about warning signs of financial exploitation, about how to set up safeguards before you need them, not after, about how the people most likely to steal from you are the ones you trust most. Some of the seniors who came to my workshop were skeptical. Their children would never. Their grandchildren adored them. That kind of thing happened to other people, not to them. I understood. I had thought the same thing. Then one day, a woman named Dorothy came to the workshop with red-rimmed eyes and a folder full of bank statements. Her son had added himself to her accounts while she was recovering from hip surgery. Her daughter-in-law had been making purchases on her credit cards. When Dorothy confronted them, they told her she was confused, senile. They suggested she might need professional care. I sat with Dorothy after the workshop. I gave her Patricia's phone number. I held her hand while she cried. "I don't understand how this happened," she said. "I gave him everything. I sacrificed everything for that boy. I know. I just wanted to be a good mother." "Being a good mother doesn't mean being a doormat," I said. "It doesn't mean giving up your dignity. It doesn't mean handing over your life savings because someone tells you that's what family does. Then what does it mean?" I thought about Richard, who had worked so hard to provide for us. About Jessica, who had taken that provision and twisted it into entitlement. About Emily and Jack, who were learning that love meant respect, not exploitation. It means teaching your children that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, including you, especially you. Dorothy went home that day with a plan. 3 months later, she sent me a card. Her son had returned everything he took. He was in counselling. Their relationship was damaged, maybe permanently, but she had her life back. At the bottom of the card, she had written, "You saved me. Thank you." I keep that card on my refrigerator, next to the drawings Emily and Jack send me from school. next to the photo of Richard from our 50th wedding anniversary, next to a silly magnet that says world's okayest grandma that Jack bought me as a joke. My daughter doesn't speak to me anymore. She finished her community service and moved to Arizona with the money she got from selling the house. She doesn't respond to my letters. She returns my Christmas gifts unopened. It hurts. I won't pretend it doesn't. Some nights, I lie awake and remember the little girl who used to crawl into my lap during thunderstorms, who made me macaroni necklaces for Mother's Day, who cried at her father's funeral and swore she would take care of me forever. That little girl is gone. Maybe she was never really there. Maybe I only saw what I wanted to see. But here's what I've learned. You can love someone completely and still refuse to let them destroy you. You can be a good mother and still have boundaries. You can forgive without forgetting, and you can move forward without looking back. My money is secure now. My home is paid off. My grandchildren are finding their own way, with my support but not my control. I have friends at the senior center who understand what I've been through. I have my sister a phone call away. I have my health, mostly, and my dignity, entirely. And every morning, I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, and I make my own choices about my own life. No one tells me what I can spend. No one threatens me with facilities and diapers. No one calls me a stupid old woman and laughs. I earned this. 40 years of night shifts and difficult patients and missing holidays. I earned every penny in my accounts, every piece of furniture in my home, every moment of peace in my retirement. And if anyone tries to take that from me again, they'll learn the same lesson my daughter learned. This grandma fights back. I hope you found something valuable in my story. Not just the warning, though that matters too, but the knowledge that it's never too late, you're never too old, and you're never too powerless to protect yourself as long as you're willing to ask for help and accept it when it comes. If you're going through something similar, please know you're not alone. Reach out to your bank. Call Adult Protective Services. Talk to a lawyer. Tell someone, anyone, what's happening. The shame you feel isn't yours to carry. It belongs to the people who hurt you. And if you're one of those children, planning to do what my daughter did, thinking your parents owe you everything they have, let me tell you something clearly. We don't. We raised you. We loved you. We sacrificed for you. But that doesn't make us your piggy bank. That doesn't make us your retirement plan. That doesn't make us less than human. Because we got old. We remember who we were before you came along. And we know who we still are. Even after you're gone. Think about that. The next time you look at your mother's bank statements and see opportunity instead of obligation. Because karma is real, and it has a very, very long memory. Thank you for listening to another Grandma Tales. My name is Helen, and this was my story. If it resonated with you, if it helped you, if it made you think twice about your own situation, then something good came from something painful. That's all any of us can ask for. Until next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and never, ever forget your worth.